93% of the stories didn't even mention the possibility of terrorism. So I mean, it's not like they said, well, maybe it's this, and raise a question. That's what journalists are supposed to do, raise questions. Then as soon as the president comes out, and you heard what he said, just hints at it, hints at his radical Islamic terror, then suddenly the gloves are off. 50% of the news stories since then on the network news have mentioned the possibility. Now we find more and more information.
We still don't know that it's an act of terrorism. We don't know why he did it. He hasn't even spoken to investigators, from what I understand. There could be a tremendous number of motivations and issues that drove him to this. We don't know. So to call it an act of terror is to rush to judgment, to jump to a conclusion that just the information isn't there right now.
And look, but here's the deal, though. We have any number of examples in terms of things that were initially reported, but all of a sudden those things change. We first heard that it was a female cop who took him down. Now all of a sudden we hear that it was another cop that actually took him down. People were saying that he was dead. Then all of a sudden he was alive. And so
there were three gunmen,
two other folks arrested. So there was so much rush to judgment. From your vantage point, General Hawkins, serving in the U.S. Army, is it wise for folks to step back and not begin to make assumptions, but to truly wait for the truth to come out, if you will?
Well, I can guarantee you, and I can guarantee the folks at home, the United States Army is not going to rush to judgment. And others may decide that it was this reason or the other reason, but we will make sure that we know exactly what took place. There is not one group of people that's hurt more by the fact that we lost these soldiers and that we had other soldiers injured. Their families and their well-being is the primary focus of everybody from the Pentagon down to the squad level. And so our heart goes out to them. We're so sorry that this took place, but we're going to look this thing over from top to bottom. And we're not going to rush to anybody's judgment about it. We're going to find out what happened and why.
But isn't it right, though, for people to be careful to jump to assumptions? I remember Oklahoma City. I was on the ground in Oklahoma City 3 hours after that bomb blast went off. And I remember that people were initially saying had to be terrorists. And that was a woman who was pregnant. And people were so angry. They were stoning that house. She was hiding in the closet. And so you get all of that drama there. Then all of a sudden we find out it's a white guy who was in the military. Yeah. So the rush to judgment is one thing. But what about this whole notion, though, of the criticism of Muslims? All of a sudden you have people out here saying that, look, they should somehow be checked. Here is actually a comment that was made, a stunning comment on Fox News Channel, the morning show by Brian Kilmeade. Let's play that. I want to hear that. We'll talk about it.
Do you think it's time for the military to have special debriefings of Muslim Army civilian officers, anybody enlisted? Because if I'm going to be deployed in a foxhole, if I'm going to be sticking in an outpost, I got to know the guy next to me is not going to want to kill me.
Now, I mean, at one point in American history, certain groups have been stigmatized, whether it was the Irish, whether it was the Asian Americans, whether it was Catholics or Protestants or African Americans or Jews. Now it happens to be American Muslims that are somehow singled out as a fifth column suspect. There's something wrong with this group of people. You'd think we'd learn through our history that we don't need a group of people to go through this kind of demonization to come through on the other side as real Americans.
But here's something interesting, Dan. And Daniel